Good morning. I'm Lieutenant Cedric Collier, CED, R-I-C-K, Collier, C-O-L-L-I-E-R. I'm here with Sergeant Jeff Thomas. We're in the 7400 block of Alabonson. Approximately 2:30 this morning, Precinct 1, Harris County, received a weapons disturbance call in this complex that's across the street. It appears to be a nightclub. Deputies responded to about 80 to 100 shot rounds fired from some sort of weapon. We're not sure if it was a long gun or a pistol. The rounds crossed the street going into an apartment complex, entered the window, and struck a 12-year-old that was asleep on the couch. That 12-year-old was transported to the hospital with a wound. He's in fair condition, but we want to continue to keep that family in our prayer. That apartment was occupied by at least two people, the mother and the son. At this point, we're waiting on the report of their conditions. We still believe there may be suspects here. So at this point, we have SWAT coming out, and they're going to make a search of the building for safety. We're asking any residents or any patrons that visit this nightclub to return and talk to us and give us any information they might have seen or heard, things such as that.
Sir, do you believe the suspects are here then at this apartment complex?
We're not certain, not the complex, at the bar across the street, yes.
It's a bar, it's a nightclub, because a neighbor told us that it was a place that before was a church, then it was a place where they sell food. But they say that since then, there was like a bad environment there with music, fights. What was there exactly?
We're not sure exactly what this establishment is for. We're not sure if it's a nightclub or it's just someplace that people hang out. But we have been called here multiple times. It's actually in the city of Houston. This road here is the dividing line, the city and the county. But we're working both sides of it at this point. Our crime scene unit is on scene. Our investigators, our SWAT team is en route. And like I said, we just want to keep this family uplifted in prayer for a full recovery.
And will we know exactly how many times he was shot and where?
We know he was shot at least one time in the abdomen, lower torso of his body. I'm not sure exactly the extent of the injuries at this point, but he was transported in fair condition.
A 12-year-old injured, 80 to 100 gunshots fired. I mean, this is a busy area. What is the response, I guess, from law enforcement?
It's just reckless and senseless. As you can see, gun violence is on the rise, and we as a community have to come together and put a stop to it. It's just senseless. These type of incidents are senseless. There's no need for it.
Did you have records or more?
Have you all been looking at any surveillance video in this area?
Yes, we have. We're using that as part of our investigation. Right now we have at least 5 suspects that may be involved. So we're going to take all that into account. And as folks wake up, if they have Ring door cameras or they have information, please call our Harris County Dispatch 221-6000, or you can call Crime Stoppers.
So 80 to 100 shots fired. Was this like a drive-by shooting type situation? Like, were they shooting at someone? Were they just shooting up in the air? Like, what was going on?
They definitely were not just shooting in the air. This was it was a disturbance. They were shooting at each other.
I can't hear you. Can you speak louder, please? Sorry.
They were shooting at each other. It wasn't shooting in the air. It wasn't celebratory fire. It was retaliation for fire. They were actually shooting at each other. And unfortunately, a 12-year-old was shot.
And so was this related, you believe?
The kid that was shot was unrelated to the incident.
Right, but I mean, the people who were shooting at each other, is this gang related?
We're not sure. This is too early in the investigation.
And sir, was it in the club, then spilled outside into the parking lot? Do we know, like, location exactly of where?
It spilled into the parking lot. We're not sure if the altercation started inside of the club or not.
Did you have previous violent incidents in this club before in the last months?
We have previous incidents in this club. We've been called out here multiple times. The city has, so has we. And it's an ongoing problem, and we're going to address that as well.
And obviously not going into too much, you believe that suspects still could be present, so we're thinking, you said inside the club or in this general area. Can you tell us?
Dealing with the magnitude of this incident, we're going to be cautious about entering that nightclub. We're going to treat it as though they are there. And if they are there and they're listening, come out with your hands up, leave your weapons where they are.
And Sheriff Ed Gonzalez said that the 12-year-old may have possibly been hit with an assault rifle. Have you all confirmed that?
We have not confirmed that. It is possible.
Now, are you basing this off of the surveillance? I'm assuming it's the surveillance.
We have some surveillance that we're using for our investigation preliminary.
Right.
but we're going to get out some more information later from other neighbors as they wake up with their cameras and as they have their accounts of what happened.
Is it okay if you kind of describe what you saw on the surveillance video?
What we see is several males exiting the club or in the front of the club, firing at each other, taking cover, returning fire. Unfortunately, those rounds are crossing the street into this residence where this child would sleep on the couch, resting to go to school this morning.
So high velocity rounds, possibly assault weapons that are made to inflict a lot of damage that could travel great distances, I'm assuming, right?
It's not the rounds. It's the individuals with the guns. Let's be clear. It's the individual, it's the reckless, careless individual with the guns.
And so when we're looking out here at the apartment complex, we saw some shattered glass, we're seeing evidence markers on the street. Can you kind of tell us, has there been a lot of apartments that were struck? Or what?
We're not sure. It's still early. We have to look at we have to get ladders to see where these rounds went. Each round is going somewhere. It doesn't just stop. So we have to do a little bit more in-depth investigation, see what was struck, what other vehicle was struck. We'll have to retrieve those rounds and run ballistics.
And did you say that you weren't sure if the mother had any injuries?
She did not.
She didn't know what.
And then could you just speak on, obviously, this is a two-lane road. You guys are trying to secure it for SWAT. So any direction for people who are in this area? I mean, I'm just assuming avoid it if they can.
My advice, if you don't have to come in the 7400 block of Alabama, stay on Little York or Gulf Bank to the north of us. Little York's to the south, Little York's to the south, and Gulf Bank's to the north. Just avoid the 7400 block of Alabama for the next several hours.
Okay, and you've already said it a bit here, but just can you give us some thoughts, as we wrap this up about when it comes to this? I mean, you've already mentioned this was senseless. They're out here shooting pretty recklessly. Child got hit. I mean, I'm sure as law enforcement, you guys are frustrated with the constant calls out for disturbances like this.
It is frustrating. It's senseless. It's something that shouldn't happen. Anything else? Thank you.